I want to talk to you about how to get booked as a guest on a podcast this year. So, here's a strategy I want you to think about. The thing is, actually, if you want to get on some other shows as a podcaster or just as an influencer or as a thought leader, it's important to really have a vision. It's important to have a strategy. It's important to actually follow the specific vision that you have. Okay, so appearing as a guest on another podcast is a great way to show your own audience that you are a thought leader, but also to grow your own audience. So, as a podcaster, it's important to really understand that not everybody knows you. I don't care how established you think your podcast is. Not everybody knows you, so it's always great to actually rely on third parties. I mean, on other shows, other podcasts, to actually elevate your brand. And so appearing on another podcast is also wonderful when it comes to promoting your products or services or even your courses. I mean, who knows, And but just emailing a lot of podcasts and saying interview me, it's not going to work because you got to have. This goes back to what I said a little earlier. It's about having a strategy. There are much more personalized and effective approaches to getting booked as a guest on a podcast. There are also services out there that can really help you. Okay, it's one of those things where it really depends on your budget. It depends, of course, on your vision. It depends on your timing too. So timing, the chronology of your initiative is really important. But one thing that really predominates over everything is actually your target audience, the demographics and the psychographics of your target audience. Because depending on the target audience you're going after, you're going to actually have a different strategy. Because the whole thing is, when you appear on that particular podcast, you are going to say a certain number of things, and you're going to win over hearts and minds of your of the listeners. Okay, so the thing is that doing an interview on another podcast in your niche lets you really offer value and win these listeners over to checking you out in terms of looking at your show too. They get to hear your voice, your tone, and your delivery before they even heard your own podcast. So think about it. It's really great because it helps you also elevate your UVP, your unique value proposition. So when you think about getting booked as a guest on a podcast, you have to think about the, let's say, the universe of podcasts you'd like to be interviewed on, right? I mean, the whole thing is not just to wake up and say, you know what, I want to be interviewed on this and this show. No, no, no. You got to be really, really specific. You got to really be granular. So, what great interview shows in your niche are out there right now? Be sure to listen to a few episodes of any podcast you plan to reach out to, because the last thing you don't want to have happen to you is to be really surprised you go on a show and the host is asking you questions that you haven't prepared for. That's really crazy. I mean, you wouldn't want to have that. So when you decide on a specific podcast, reach out to them with a very thorough proposal on what you can offer their listeners. It's really great also when you reach out to that show to actually have your podcast media kit ready. When you have a media kit ready, you have everything summarized about your show, about yourself as well. So when you actually reach out to the host, it's not just about, hey, I'm John Doe, I'm very beautiful, I'm handsome, whatever. No, no. What unique insights can you bring to the table? What value can you bring? Make this all about their audience, right? This is what I was saying a little earlier to you. What is your UVP, your unique value proposition? So ultimately, what the podcast owner will want to hear is, what would you like to chat about? Why it would be useful and interesting to their audience, because you have to think about adding value to their audience. It's not about you. And you also have to really speak a little bit about credibility. So a lot about you and why you are well positioned to help, why you are well positioned to add value. You also need to sort of accentuate the benefits their audience will get from it, and what keywords or search terms you are targeting in relation to the episode title, and also the ways you will share the episode to drive traffic to their show. It's not about your show. It is how are you going to help their show actually also grow. Very important. So if you're thinking about getting booked as a guest on a podcast, how do you reach out to other podcasts? It's important to understand that you have several ways to reach out. You can reach out via text message if you know the host's phone number. You can reach out via email. You can reach out via video form. You can reach out via social media. You can reach out via a third party or via a common friend. So there are a lot of ways to actually reach out. You can also reach out to their PR agency, to their marketing firm. You have a lot of ways. Okay. So instead of reaching out by email, create your proposal in audio or even better, video form. And this personalized approach will be much more likely to resonate with a podcaster because it shows that you're not simply copying and pasting the same email to hundreds of other shows. If you send someone a personalized video, the chances are they will watch it. Okay. And that's what you want. You want them to watch it because you want them to actually be convinced that you will add a lot of value to their show. So, the podcast host will also be able to hear your voice right away and that you've got a good level of audio quality. So, this combined with the value you promise to offer their audience makes it very difficult for them to ignore and easy for them to say yes. And that's what you want, right? You want them to say yes right off the bat. And so, there are actually alternative and more scalable options, though. So, let me just share a few of them with you. The thing is that when you think about getting booked as a guest on a podcast, you got to really think of it as a long-term strategy. Because see, the thing is, when you actually win over a podcast host, what happens here is that during the conversation, during the interview itself, the chemistry that you have during the interview happened way before the interview itself. In other words, you want to establish their relationship with the host before the interview itself. You want to maybe exchange a few text messages or a few emails. You want to hopefully also talk to the host on the phone privately before the show itself, or you can talk to their team or their staff. That way, you can establish a certain rapport before you go on stage, so to speak. So I want to talk to you about services that help you get booked as a guest on a podcast. Because if you want to get booked as a guest on a podcast, not everybody is sort of like is socially connected enough to have the phone numbers of hosts at great podcasts in this world, right? So the cool thing is you want to really have a clear idea about maybe having a third party helping you. It's all about actually outsourcing that part of the service. I mean that part of action, the initiative. So you can put yourself out there as an available podcast interviewee on very unuseful platforms. And a quick heads up that it's important to understand that basically the bottom line is when you put yourself out there, you will be getting all kinds of proposals, but you need to filter. You need to filter actually the proposals and see the ones that you really want to go for, right? Because otherwise, you just be wasting your time and going on shows that you don't really like. Okay, so now when I talk about services that get you booked as a guest on a podcast, you can actually try podcastguests.com. So podcast guests actually links up those who want to find podcast interview guests with those who want to be podcast interview guests. That's kind of cool because you have actually a middleman, if you will. Okay, and this company is actually really good because it works on a niche basis. So when you reach out, you have to actually specify your niche, and they will see what kind of niche will be. What kind of host in your niche will be appealing to you, and also you'll be appealing to them. Okay, and so you can list yourself on podcastguest.com. You can list yourself as an expert guest for $10 a month on their basic package. So they are charging you for it. They also have a premium package, and the premium package goes from 29 to 35, in some cases $50 per month. But this allows you to link to 3 websites instead of one, be listed in 2 categories instead of one, have your profile featured above basic members, be featured on social media on a rotating basis, and have your profile featured in a rotating newsletter to over 20,000 subscribers. You can also try another service called Matchmaker FM. And so Matchmaker markets themselves as like Tinder, but for podcasters. So that's kind of cool because this tells you a lot about the granularity of their target audience, but also the granularity of their initiatives. Because this really helps you have a clear idea about what kinds of target audience they want to go after. The cool thing is that when you think about Matchmaker, you can use this platform either to find podcast guests yourself or to put yourself forward to be a guest on other shows. Okay. And what we love, what you love about Matchmaker.fm is that it is totally free and you can connect via your LinkedIn or Facebook account. Now the big question is how does Matchmaker actually make money? Well, they make money through promotional packages. If you wanna deepen the relationship, if you wanna find, let's say, a certain level of podcast shows to appear on as a guest, then you might have to pay for stuff. So Matchmaker actually has a premium service where you have to really contact the platform and really explain what types of strategy you want to actually have, and they will actually concoct something for you and will help you actually find the specific podcast that you want to appear on as a guest. One thing for sure, when you go on matchmaker.com, please make sure that your profile is as complete as possible. That will really help you. If you have a profile that's really as complete as possible, then you have a clear idea about how to really market yourself a lot more closely. Now, one thing I want to say also is that when you actually think about your ability to understand how to conquer the specific target audience you want to go after, I want to go back to what I said earlier about a UVP. So your unique value proposition is really critical. That's going to help you a lot. And another player you can try if you want to get booked as a guest on a podcast, it actually is a Podchaser Connect. And what you will love about Podchaser Connect is actually the speed at which the platform can really connect you to host. Okay, and Podchaser is often referred to as the IMDb of podcasting. And the platform actually has a range of excellent features for podcast listeners and podcasters alike. And so this is kind of cool because it really helps you scale real fast. In other words, you can actually you can engage, you can interact, you can actually meet a whole new level of target audiences. And so Podchaser Connect enables you to connect your own profile, then actually link that profile to all the shows and episodes that you have ever been involved in. So that's kind of cool because it really also helps you centralize your branding. And so that's kind of cool. And you are able to get to see more folks. Okay, you're able to strategically connect with experts and podcasts that really relate to your specific niche. Okay, so and the cool thing is that alongside your custom profile, you will also have a data-driven matching between podcasters and potential guests, as well as detailed analytics and reporting. So that's kind of cool because it helps you actually have a more granular profile. And the more granular your profile is, the better it is because then you are going to attract the specific audience, the specific host that you want to actually appeal to. Remember, when you actually are putting yourself out there as a potential guest on a podcast, you do not want to really appeal to everybody. And I know you probably are. Don't be desperate. Don't say, I'll take everything. No. You want to diversify your interest, but you have to actually center your interest a little bit. In other words, you want to stick to what works in your niche, and you want to target those top 10 or top 20 shows in your niche because those are the shows that your target audience is actually watching. Why go on another show where you know that people will be watching you, but they don't care about what you have to say or they don't care about your brand anyway? You want to really appeal to the specific audience that will be potential listeners of your own show. So when you think about actually getting booked as a guest on a podcast, you probably understand that you are able to do things yourself. You are able to do things actively. You are able to do things passively, but you are also able to do things through a third party, like reach out to a service such as podcastguest.com, matchmaker.com, I mean .fm, but also Podchaser Connect. Right now, it's important to understand that when you got to prepare yourself. Right, it's not about just waking up and say, I want to be a guest on a podcast. No, it doesn't work that way. There is a lot of preparation that goes actually behind the curtain, if you will. Okay, you should start preparing for what to do as a guest, but also what to do as a potential interviewee, not only for the host, but also for the target audience. After all, if you do a poor job with your first interview, this could hamper your chances of being invited onto any other podcast as a guest. So you might be thinking, I'm already a podcaster. This part will be easy. No, no, no. Being in the guest chair can be quite different in a lot of ways. Okay, so you always want to prepare yourself. Don't actually overestimate your abilities. No, you're just a human like you and me. You have your flaws, you have your strengths. So just work on your developmental areas. So this is an important element, and so you want to really pay attention to your potential pitfalls, and in the end, do a great job as the podcast guest. And so not only can this lead to more subscribers to your own show, but it can also lead to a lot more guest bookings too. Okay, this is kind of cool. By the way, if you have questions about this aspect of things, just let me know in the comment section, and I'll certainly answer you. You can just tell me what kind of niche you're in, what's your location, so the city and state, and also the timing. So how often or how quickly you want to be booked as a guest on a show, and I'll certainly get back to you, or one of my team members will get back to you and answer all those questions. So, in conclusion to this conversation, I spoke to you about how to get booked as a guest on a podcast. I gave you the strategy and now the conclusion. Thank you so much. God bless you. I'll see you next time. Until then, remember, stay marvelous.